I only have 1,100 or so words right now, so I still got at least 5,000 more to go.
What's going on? I'm John, and in this video I'm going to be attempting to plan and write an entire short story in just one day. I've never written a short story before. I know that they're supposed to be around 5,000 to 10,000 words long, which sounds like a pretty challenging day, and I've never had a word day above 5,000 words in a single day before. So this already sounds like it's a little bit crazy, right? But I do have one thing on my side. I've wanted to write this specific story for over a year. And I think all of this anticipation over the course of more than a year might have given me just enough ideas to actually write this story out at a pretty rapid pace. You see, when I first started writing, I didn't really know how I was going to improve my skills. So I started doing all these analytical things to try and figure out a way to improve my skills. And one of the things that I did was generating a bunch of writing prompts. My writing prompts were composed of a skill that I was working on and a situation that defined the prompt. And one day I ended up with the prompt of writing with subtext in dialogue where a character is trying to keep a secret. And this simple prompt generated one of the darkest story ideas that I've ever come up with before. So that is the story that I'm going to be writing in this video. I'll give you some more details after I actually finish planning it out. But for now, here's a little bit of information about the situation. When flying over open ocean, our protagonist and his friend realize that their plane's engine has just gone bad. Now their only hope for survival is to jump out of the plane, make for the only island in sight, and use their radio to call for help. But as they grow nearer to the island, the friend's parachute suddenly deflates and he goes plummeting toward the earth into the heart of the jungle. With his friend's whereabouts and condition unknown, matters are made even worse for our protagonist, because the radio they were going to use to get off of the island, their only hope for getting off of the island, was in his friend's possession. From that situation alone, it may not have sounded that dark yet, but don't worry, it's going to be headed in a dark direction, I promise. And now, since I've never actually written a short story before, I'm going to watch the lecture by Mary Robinette as part of Brandon Sanderson's lecture series at BYU. This lecture on short stories will hopefully give me some good information to help me along with this process, because this is a completely new thing for me. And I should mention, it's actually the day before I'm going to be writing the short story. I wanted to prepare a little bit before I do this huge undertaking of planning and writing an entire short story in one day. So I think I'm going to migrate to the couch and go and watch this lecture. So let's do it.
I was just about to talk to you, but I need to sit down. This is Poe. This guy is not actually our dog. His dad is on vacation right now, so he's staying here for a little bit. But he's a pretty cute companion. Although he likes to lick my hand so much when I'm about to be using my computer. And he has no sense of boundaries. I'm gonna watch my lecture now. Okay. You can chill there if you want, though.
So Brandon invited me here to talk to you about short stories because he is good at many things that are not short stories.
Okay, so I wasn't really prepared for this, but I guess we're going to be doing a few exercises right now. So I'm going to be doing these writing exercises along with the rest of the class here, so we'll see how it goes.
So you have 3 sentences to do this. Bonus points if you can do it in 1.
Okay, so I just finished up with that lecture, and I actually do think that it was really useful for me. I was already exposed to some of these elements, like the mice quotient I already heard about from Mary Robinette actually in the Writing Excuses podcast. I already kind of had some exposure to that, but I think that the story ratios she talked about with the specific lengths of different parts of the story are going to be useful for me. And also her analogy at the beginning where she compared the Olympics as seen through a novel or as seen through a short story. And it's actually funny because the other day I saw Kate Cavanaugh's video where she was watching Neil Gaiman's Masterclass. And in that video, this one thing really stood out to me because I knew I was going to be writing a short story. Neil Gaiman was talking to one of his other friends, and basically the friend said that he puts his best short stories at the end of novels. And what Mary Robinette said here even clarified that further, because it's not just that the short story is at the end of the novel. It's that the short story encompasses the key moment of the novel where the major change occurs. It doesn't include the resolution, doesn't include any of the build-up before, it encompasses that key moment. So I'm going to have to make sure I'm focusing on that and really starting in the action as well as finishing in the action and not letting it linger on for too long. And also keeping those ratios she talked about in mind when I'm doing my planning tomorrow. So that's all I'm going to do for today, but I'll be back tomorrow with the actual planning and writing of this short story.
Just one more thing. He's so cute. Good morning. It is now 4:03, so I'm gonna do my normal morning routine, and then I'm gonna get into writing this short story.
Okay, it is 4:54 and I'm ready to get started on planning this actual story out. So I was looking into the numbers a little bit this morning here, and I'm thinking that the story is going to be around 6,250 words, but I don't know, it might be more than that. We'll see when I actually do the outlining. But with that planning in mind, it's looking like it's going to be about 6-ish scenes, about 1,000 words each scene. The first 1.25 to 1.5 scenes is going to be introducing the character, where they are, who they are, and what their goal is, what situation they're in right now. After that, there's going to be 3 scenes that are tri-fail cycles, and then we're going to have 1 scene which closes off the entire story. I'm not entirely sure what the mice quotient is going to look like for this story right now, because I didn't plan on having them actually end up on the island as part of the story, but it seems like the best stopping point if they actually get off of the island in the end. So I'm not sure. Maybe that's actually more like resolution territory if this was a novel. Maybe the actual ending is the protagonist overcoming the adversary, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. Anyway, I'm going to get into the actual planning for this, and I hope to be done with it by 7:30 or so, because I want to go on a run then. I would like to at least finish my planning before I do that, if not actually start doing some writing. So let's get into this planning, and hopefully we'll figure this story out quickly so that I can actually get into writing it. So I'm actually having trouble coming up with this very specific key event that is going to encompass most of the short story. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to kind of summarize how I would write the entire story if I was going to write it as a novel, and then I'm just going to pick out the part that will be interesting for this little section, and that's what I'm going to write during this story. I'm getting kind of confused about the terminology of the mice quotient, since I know that this is a milieu story, but I don't think that I have enough space to actually tell from the beginning to end without skipping like a lot of time. I'm gonna try to figure out what it would look like overall, and then once I figure out what it would look like overall, then I can figure out what section I want to focus on and how I'm going to write it and how this section is going to conform to the mice quotient. So let's start by actually doing that. Okay, so I think I figured out what the story is going to be about, what part of the story is going to be encompassed in this short story. However, I'm having some trouble with actually assigning the mice quotient parts to it. I think it's going to be an event story with the inquiry inside of it, but I don't know what the event is going to be, because I don't think I really understand the event as far as the mice quotient goes very well. So I'm gonna actually re-listen to that episode of Writing Excuses where they talked about the event, and hopefully this will help me figure out what the event is going to be so I can figure out the shape of the short story and what sort of scenes it's going to contain. So I'm gonna listen to this episode of Writing Excuses real quick and figure out how the event is going to work in my story.
This is Writing Excuses, deep dive into event.
15 minutes long.
Because you're in a hurry.
And we're not that smart.
I'm Dan.
I'm CL.
I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Mary Robinette.
Okay, so listening to that podcast helped me realize that I don't think this is actually an event story. I think it's actually still a milieu like I thought, but the actual opening of the milieu thread isn't going to be present in this story. We're going to start with it already in the milieu. The character still wants to get off the island. That's still the primary goal. That's the first goal that I'm going to introduce in the story, but it's going to start and end with the character focusing on getting off the island. Inside the milieu, there's going to be an inquiry thread, and the end of this inquiry thread, the closing of the inquiry, is going to lead to an event, and the closing of the event is going to allow the character to close off the milieu. That's the overall structure. Now I'm just going to get into creating some of these scenes and mapping it out a little bit more so I actually understand what's going to happen in the story and make sure that I actually have enough space to write all of this. So I'm going to get into planning out these scenes, and I'll give you some details on how all that went in just a bit. Okay, so I just finished planning out the plot for the story and these few scenes. This story is really more of an action-driven, sort of event-based story, more plot-focused than character-focused. So I've kind of got everything that I need already, but I do think that I should figure out some of the details about this character and also the antagonist character. So I'm going to go through that planning a little bit, figure out a little bit of the details about these two characters so that I can actually write them effectively without having to pause and think about, what is this character going to be like every 5 seconds? I'm going to figure out these details about the character real quick, and then I'll be able to actually start writing. It's already 6:22, so it's getting kind of close. I want to do this in maybe 30 minutes so that I have enough time to at least begin writing the first scene maybe before I go on my run. Okay, so I just figured out a little bit of information about the characters' backgrounds, these two main characters, the protagonist and antagonist. The protagonist himself is a man by the name of Jackson Park. He's a horse jockey because I figured that it would make sense to have him be smaller than the antagonist so that he's in a position of weakness basically around this guy. Most horse jockeys are about 5 foot tall, so this guy is going to be in this situation where the antagonist character towers over him, where he's much stronger, and he's also really fearful, although on the outside he pretends like he's really cocky. So he's going to have some sort of anxiety inside and be afraid to confront problems head on. That's all I figured out about him, basically. The antagonist character, I don't want to reveal all of the information about him, but I will say a few things. He's 56 years old. He was an adventurer slash archaeologist. He traveled the world and he was a really big kind of thrill-seeking sort of guy. And because he's experienced so many different things, he's really calm and he doesn't really get thrown off by anything anymore. So those are our two main characters. I could definitely tell you more about the antagonist character, but I'm not going to tell you about him right now. So I'm going to start writing this. I think I'm going to have enough time to finish about one scene before I'm going to go on my run and then eat some breakfast and do all that stuff. So let's get right into it. So I just finished writing the first scene. It is already 7:57 and I wrote about 1,054 words. So good progress so far. This story is shaping up to be really interesting so far. I'm very happy with this first scene that I finished, and I actually added on a little bit of a sort of cliffhanger to the end of it. So I'm very much ready to write the next scene. But first, I'm going to go do this run real quick. Today, I think it's 3.5 miles, 3 miles. I don't know how long. Let's see. If Google ever loads, then I'll be able to tell you. Yeah, so today I'm just running 3 miles. So I'm just going to go knock that out real quick. Should be pretty easy. Let's do it. So I'm just about finished with my warm-up, and it's now about time to get started running. Oh, this is really, really wobbly. So before, when I was in the neighborhood and I was trying to take my phone out to record something for you, I dropped the phone and it fell screen first onto the ground, which so happens to be the road. So, my screen's really messed up. So I guess I'm gonna buy a new phone. I didn't really want to. I was happy with this one for the last however many years because it's really been good to me. But I guess we might be getting better camera quality. So that's positive, right? We might be getting some better camera quality. Maybe a little more storage so I don't have to transfer things over to my phone, to my computer so often. So that would be good too. Otherwise, kind of bummed. I really like this phone. I had a connection with it. But I guess that's coming to an end soon. Anyway, I'm like 2 miles in right now. I started walking a little bit, mostly because I wanted to talk to you, but also because my knees are still a little bit worn out. So I'm trying to mix walking and running. Okay, so I just got back from my run, and you just saw my beautiful closet, and now I'm a little bit worn out. Not worn out, but Just the fact that I have to get a new camera, a new phone, it's kind of mendokusai. Anyway, but today I'm going to record with this messed up screen, and everything will be okay. Okay, so I just finished making my breakfast, and not a moment too soon, because I am getting pretty hungry. So, I'm gonna munch on that real quick, and... oh, somebody came over to check out what I'm doing. Okay, I just finished up with my breakfast, and now it is time to get back into the writing. I only have 1,100 or so words right now, so I still got at least 5,000 more to go. So it is 10:41, and I just finished the second scene, putting me at 943 words. So this scene was actually pretty short, only around 800 words. I'm not sure if some of the other ones will be short like this too. If they are, then this might end up only being around 5,000 words. But anyway, that is the one more scene done. This entire story so far is really awesome because it's literally the most interesting moments of the story that I'm getting to dive into here. I think I'm gonna move back over here and stand up for a little bit and continue with the third scene. So let's do it. So I just had an idea in the middle of writing this third scene, and I realized there's a better way to do it. So I added a few more scenes actually. I ended up adding 2 more scenes, but all 3 of these from 3 to 5 are going to be pretty short. So I don't know if it'll make things that much longer, but I do think it'll be good for keeping the pace really quick and having the dominoes, if you will, falling one after another. So I'm going to make the changes that I need to finish up this new version of the third scene. It is 11:50 right now, and also I am just about 3,000 words into this short story. Okay, so I'm making good progress so far. So I've already completed 4 of the scenes. I have 5, 6, 7, and 8 left to write. Part of me is tempted to go and hang out in the living room and sit on the sofa. I know that it's easy for me to get distracted, especially with the cute dog out there. And I don't want to get distracted. I want to finish this story. So instead, I'm just going to keep chilling in here. And I actually am going to get another chair in here so I don't have to sit at my desk all the time or stand up. Maybe that'll make things easier in the future. But for now, all I have is this chair and over there. I'm liking the way the story is coming along so far. This is a really interesting story, and it feels weird to be writing it so quickly. And to be writing something so short that it's literally just going to be done in this single day. But I'm liking this process so far of writing a short story. It's totally a different thing for me. One more thing is that I actually have a meeting coming up at 12 here, and it is already 11:56. So I might spend a little bit of time on that, maybe 30 minutes, but I don't want to spend the whole time because I want to get back into this story. So I'm going to use that as a little break basically, and then I'm going to come back and finish the rest of this up. So I'm going to get to that, and I will see you in just a bit. So I actually ended up staying for the entire meeting. Whoops. So now it's already 1:04 here, and I still have the last 4 scenes to write. So I need to really blaze through this because it's starting to get late. So I'm just gonna get right into it. It is 1:49, and I just finished the 5th scene. So I'm at 3,519 words. So the 5th scene went pretty well for me overall. It was very short actually, which I guess makes sense because the 5th and the 4th scene used to be kind of one, but there were 2 different trifill cycles in those scenes, so I wanted to separate them out even though they're both pretty short. Okay, so now I'm about to write the 6th scene, and this one is going to be much longer than the last one was, I imagine. There is going to be some serious stuff going on in this scene, so I'm very much ready for it. We're getting pretty close to what would be in a novel the climactic moment, so get ready for it. Well, you can't see it yet, but it's going to be awesome.
is 226, and I have just crossed the 4,000 word mark and finished the 6th scene of this.
So yes, I'm done with the 6th scene, and things are moving along well right now. I'm thinking the 7th scene is going to be pretty long, and I still have that and the 8th scene to write, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to get a little bit of Japanese in so that I can do some of that before I actually start to get a little more tired, and it's not really effective for me to immerse in media because I'm having trouble paying attention. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to watch a show and some YouTube, and then I'm going to come back and finish the rest of this story. And I'm also going to migrate to the living room because it's so much more comfortable on the couch. I've been at this desk in this room for so long. So let's get to it. We're doing the great living room migration. Hopefully I don't drop my phone again and then break it into even more pieces. Let's continue, baby. What up, Doge? Don't come over here, okay? Be chill. No. Do not step on my computer, dog. You're very heavy. I already broke one thing today. I don't want to break two things. Ah, this show is so nice. I'm really liking these episodes now. Although I'm only watching one episode a day because I'm really trying to get most of my Japanese content from YouTube. So I'm going to go over and watch a little bit of that. And I think I'll take a bit, like about an hour to do this. And then I'm going to go and finish off the writing. Let's get into some YouTube. So recently I've been watching this skateboarder's vlogs, and he's like super charismatic. Even without having a perfect understanding of the language, this guy is so personable. So it is a ton of fun to watch him. And I noticed that he has this really like playful attitude where he's always trying to have fun. So that's something that I'm looking to incorporate more into my life. So I'm going to keep watching. I got 10 more minutes to go, and then I'm going to go back and do some writing. Okay, so I did an hour of Japanese. That's not very much for me, so I'm going to go back to it later, but I do want to make sure I finish this story today. So I'm going to write these last two scenes before I go back and do the rest. Let's get started on these scenes right here. Okay, so I just finished the 7th scene, which was basically the climactic moment of this story. The 7th scene was a lot of fun to write, so the words flowed pretty easily. I managed to get 5,128 words so far. So I only have one more scene left. We'll see where that lands me. It is 5:02 right now, and it was about 5,355 words. So the resolution scene was relatively short, given that, I didn't want to spend too much time winding down a 5,000 word story. So it was only a few hundred words, but I do like how it ended. I like the last little line and how it kind of closed everything off. So I have just finished planning and writing an entire short story in just a single day. I mean, it barely met the minimum standards for a short story as far as length. It was like 5,000 words, but that's still a lot for me to write in a single day. That's the most I've ever written in a single day. So that is pretty cool for me. And I think what I'm going to do next as far as videos is I'm going to actually edit this story, because I think that will be useful to me as far as teaching me a little bit about the editing process and getting me ready to actually edit the entire novel instead. By going through this story and by looking for all the things that I would look for on the minute level, and I guess the story-wide level too, but since it's a relatively short story, I kind of know that the structure is fine. So maybe I'll wait a day or two, I'll read through, and then I'm going to get into editing. I'll do the story-wide editing, then I'll do the more minute editing, and I'll kind of test the waters a little bit for my normal editing so that I understand the process and how each of the steps works and get a feel for it before I have to do it for my first real full-length novel. So I think that what I'm going to do is actually edit the story all the way until it's done. And it'll be my first actually completed project as a writer. So that's pretty cool, at least. You could say this video started off with a mice quotient style inquiry. Could I plan and write a short story in a single day? And I answered the question, yes. Well, at least for a 5,000 word one. 10,000, that might be for another day. So if you like this video, make sure to smash that like button so that YouTube knows to share with other writers like you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This Last of Us ending song is so lit. I was just listening to it for the entire time. So that's going to be stuck in my head. So I'm at 3,500. It was about 500
wow, that's not focused. 530. Wait, what?